And good evening, everybody. Welcome to yet another edition here of the Meta Steel podcast here, going on Facebook Live only tonight. Well, of course, yours truly, Charles Prodigy Richey right now, and we are going to recap right now. The Steelers right now, but off to a good start in free agency. $84.65 million in counting as we look at on Spoke Track right now. And that is also confirmed by Jerry Dulac of the Pittsburgh Post Gazette right now. The Steelers, they have been big spenders, first time in a long time, as we have seen so far six new faces to the club. Definitely a very good, helpful needs that prove to be vital for the coming season right now. Even post beyond Bev Roethlisberger too. I mean, his career right now, uh, the itch for niche. They now call it Mitchburg, as Joe Starkey likes to refer to it in Pittsburgh right now. So it's Mitchburg eventually going to be coming up too. Did that prove to be one of the mistakes right there for the quarterback position? Does this kill the Steelers' need to even draft a quarterback at this point in time? We'll get to that in just a second. But anyway, if you guys want, feel free to tune in. Check me out. I am streaming live, like I said, on my Meta Steel podcast Facebook page. We're going to be getting into it. Plus some exciting NFL news coming up with Monday Night Football that was announced last week. The new additions of Joe Buck and Troy Aikman. Hear my thoughts on that a little bit later towards the end of the show. Then also some sad news too on the late Professor John Clayton, as he has passed away this past Friday, a true icon in the NFL media. Got a chance to meet him one time in person at my broadcast school. One of the most humble and observational, smart geniuses that were out there as far as like paying attention to free agency. He even covered the Steelers a long time ago too, back in the 70s. A true icon, and a lot of people remember him from ESPN. Condolences go out to him and his family right now on their loss, the Clayton family, and of course many of his colleagues too at ESPN. Of course, more famously Sean Salisbury, who they used to do back in the late early 2000s. They used to do segments together, and one of their famous segments. If you guys want to throw this, stream this on YouTube, check out Four Downs back on ESPN, where you see John Clayton and Sean Salisbury. Sean Salisbury, who had a short NFL career, I believe it was. But anyway, they had a good, cordial relationship over time, and very animated topics and debates right there. So thoughts go out to him as well there. Sorry if you're lost, Sean. But let's go ahead and get started right now. Like I said, we got some deals coming up right here, beginning with James Daniels, 3-year. He has been signed coming up for this time right now as we looked at James Daniels. He signed a 3-year, $26.5 million contract with the Steelers, which includes an $8.75 million signing bonus, which is guaranteed at an average salary of $8.83 million right now. We're in a base salary of $1.25 million coming up in this one for this year, and that is definitely a huge signing right there as we look at it for right now. I mean, James Daniels right now, who seems to be pretty good for the most part. I mean, you talk about like what was the main elephant in the room with this team. I mean, was the offensive line. I mean, it wasn't just the run blocking, which Najee Harris had to battle with in his rookie year, but then you also look at the protection of the quarterback too. He is a former Chicago Bear right now. He started 48 out of his 54 games in his career. 3 full seasons as a, I mean, at least 2 seasons where he started all of his games. The only 2 where he did not, where he had 5 games he played in 2020 and then he started 10 out of 16 in his rookie year from the Chicago Bears. He was a former Iowa graduate right there. He was selected in the second round, 39th overall in the 2018 NFL draft. He comes on board right now, and that's going to be a real interesting spot right there. I mean, James Daniels right there. I mean, left guard right there has familiarity with Mitch Trubisky, as you could imagine right there, too. I mean, you look at the Chicago Bears, too. I mean, like, who's going through a transition right now, their second year with Justin Fields, and you look at what they've been able to do right now. I mean, no surprise there. Their offensive line has been a struggle for a long time, or in terms of like giving it good run protection and stuff for the most part. But anyway, too, I mean, the Chicago Bears, for the most part, I mean, when you look at it, I mean, the last 2 years, aside from 2021, I mean, they were ranked in the top at least like 13 as far as like sacks allowed when he was last year playing with the Chicago Bears. I mean, the last 3 seasons, excuse me. I mean, they given up at least 45 in 2019, 25 in 2013, and of course 33 in his rookie year. I mean, the 2018 year seemed to be a much better year. But as far as like the Bears giving up like sacks that year, I mean, for 2021, they given up at least 58 sacks, which is a problem right there. So we'll see what kind of like what this does for his team going forward right now. I mean, a guy like James Daniels right now, who like to see what he's gonna be able to contribute. Hopefully, add some better protection for the quarterback too. But I think when you have a guy like Mitch Trubisky who has, I mean, the elements. I mean, like where a lot of people feel like he is coachable and younger too. The plan is to have Trubisky challenge Rudolph as a replacement for Ben Roethlisberger per sources. Deal does not affect Rudolph's status with the team. He is not expected to be traded or asked for a trade. But, I mean, when you look at a guy like Mitch Trubisky, a 2-year, $14.25 million deal, $27 million with incentives right here. Now, I mean, you look at it right there, too, and, like, right there, when you're paying a guy this much money, I mean, to go out there and play, you're not usually using that as a backup. Now, remember, I mean, you look at a guy like Mason Rudolph, who basically signed a 1-year extension with the team a year ago. He is playing this year where he's going to be earning $3 million, $1.04 million remaining of his signing bonus. He's going to be carrying a cap of over $4 million for this season right now. Now, I mean, the verdict is still out for a guy like Mason Rudolph right now. I mean, he is a guy who hasn't won a game in 3 years now. Mason Rudolph. I mean, let's look at the tail of the tape once again. 5-4-1 as a starter. He's only won one game since that Cleveland Browns fiasco with Myles Garrett on Thursday Night Football, which he did not finish, but he was still a starter. He got credited with the win. That was on the road in Cincinnati versus the Bengals, where he won 8-16, completing 50% of his passes, only throwing for a net yardage of 72 yards, and where he got sacked in that game once for 13 yards. I mean, since that Browns incident right there, including that game, he has been 1-2-1 for the overall, which brought him to a 5-4-1 record, 13 touchdowns, 10 interceptions, and in the most part, he's still completing 61% of his passes. His completion percentage was not all that bad. But I think when you look at a guy like possibly keeping like around Mason Rudolph around here, I mean, how much more is it going to be where, you know, he's going to feel frustrated right now is what you do right now. I mean, I would think for at this time being, if the Steelers do possibly still decide to draft a quarterback, I gotta believe that Mason Rudolph is going to be the odd man out because Dwayne Haskins, I can still see them keep him around, probably be their scout quarterback. It doesn't make any sense to keep Joshua Dobbs on this quarterback depth chart. I mean, to be honest with you, I would think it'd be more Mason Rudolph. Mason Rudolph would still feel like he's got a chance to be a starter in this league somewhere. I mean, deep down inside, where he could still want to prove himself. I mean, at the same time, the jury is too. He is more of a good backup quarterback than anything, and a pretty solid backup quarterback. I think right now, like I said, I think Mike Tomlin and everyone, they got their eyes open going into this year. Got to give the guy some tough love for right now and see what you can roll with. And also, too, speaking of linemen, too, aside from James Daniels, who they just signed, he is a center right here. But like I said, he's played most of his career as guard. We also got in here, too, Mason Cole. He was signed to a 3-year, $15.75 million deal per source. He started 39 out of 60 games. He last suffered an elbow injury in week 15 where he started 3 games playing guard. Prior to that, he started midseason in place of Garrett Bradbury due to COVID-19. He was a former Viking right here. When you look at a guy like Mason Cole right here. Mason Cole, who seems to be going to this year for this season. I mean, hell of a tale right now. He's only played 1 season with the Vikings right now. And he has played primarily his career with the Cardinals. And 2 out of his 3 seasons, he's played as their starting center right there. So we'll see how much competition this is going to be right now. As a guy like Kendrick Green, is he going to like slot over to like a natural guard position going to this year? Only time will tell on that. And I just feel like the biggest thing for right now, not only the run blocking, but protect the quarterback. I think those got to be the main 2 objectives. I tell you the one surprising move right here too is Chuks Okorafor signed a 3-year, $29.25 million deal. He is back with the Steelers right now for this year. He has been a very solid young prospect here. He's going to be turning 25 years old this August right now. Guy who's still got a lot of potential. Remember, he was drafted at the age of 20 when he got there. And a guy who has some question marks coming out of Western Michigan, a former 3rd round, 92nd overall pick. I mean, let's face it right now. I mean, he did not have the best of years, but at the same time, too, I think what really stands out about him is the starts now. He's only missed 1 game in his last 2 seasons right now. So I got to believe the jury's still out on a guy like him right now. Still got to believe he's going to be a big full-time starter they could still count on for this team going forward as they look at it. But for right now, this is what I look at. I mean, Chuks Okorafor, I mean, no surprise. I think Mike Tomlin likes to reward some guys who put in their time right now. And I think he's a guy that, you keep on this offensive line right now. I think the only other guy you'd have to look at as far as like on this team would probably be a guy like Kevin Dotson right now. I mean, see where his career continues to be in the fold with the Steelers going forward. Remember, they did also release Zach Banner, too, by the way, as they looked at it. And Zach Banner, by the way, who trying to find right here, but yeah. Zach Banner, they saved about $5 million in cap space, according to 93.7 The Fan. That was announced last week. While $1.625 million to account for dead money this season. Remember, he did sign a 2-year contract, I believe it was a year ago, but he has been not the same guy since his injury, just coming into this team. And I don't think he's been reliable. Been highly concerned if he was going to be with this team going forward. And remember, even when he was trying to make his way coming back from injury, it wasn't really promising like what he was going to be for this offensive line. I mean, to be honest, yeah. I mean, Zach Banner right now, I mean, guy had great attitude as a tackle, but at the same time, too, I really got to believe he just became like just nothing much they could count on in the long term. I mean, your best ability is availability right now. And I just really be wondering when you got a guy like Kevin Dotson right now, and then you also signed a guy, like I said earlier today, and the guy, I mean, for the most part, going into this, in Mason Cole right now, I mean, that is going to be a real issue right now. Remember, he is signed as a center, and see what he could do for this team. So again, if you guys want to follow me on social media, you can definitely do so. You can follow me on Twitter at MassSteelCJR, and then you can also check me out on Instagram at MassSteel Nation. There was James Daniels. There we go. He was the other guy that was signed, by the way. Also, too, let's swing over the defense right now. Jerry Dulac, they signed former Jaguars outside linebacker Miles Jack. He is going to be coming in to help shore up the inside linebackers crew right now. And I would be really surprised how he will be able to help like with the running situation right now. Miles Jack, former Jaguar, by the way, coming into this season right now. Like I said, he's been more listed as as an outside linebacker, but he's played 2 seasons at middle linebacker from 2018 and 2019, and where he had at least about 107 tackles was his third most in his career, which included 4 quarterback hits, and then he also had a tackle for loss. And then in 2019, his tackles went down a little bit. But, I mean, for the most part, he started about 82 out of 88 games right now. And the feeling is, too, I mean, when you look at where the Steelers have been spending their money on now, I mean, the only other question I would think be coming in here is, can a guy like Tyrann Mathieu still be signed? Every shot seems to be thinking, like, when you look at the signings on this team, they want to get younger. They don't want to, like, sign, like, guys that are, like, near – like at the twilight of their career, where into their 30s and older right now. It seems like they want to have like a pretty nice, young, fresh nucleus right now. As I got to tell you what, too, I mean, for a guy like Miles Jack right now, and you had a guy like Devin Bush, who pretty much had some significant struggles coming off of his knee injury right now. I mean, you got to look at it this way right now. I mean, Devin Bush right now is still not for sure if they're going to pick up his 5th-year option. But I think Devin Bush, I mean, for right now, I mean, who they traded up for, I mean, in the draft 3 years ago, I mean, you got to believe right now there's been, I mean, a little patience with the guy. I mean, his tackles did go down significantly back last year, where he's only had about 70 total tackles for the season, playing in 14 games. And where his career high was 109 tackles in his first season as a Steeler right there. He had 9 tackles for loss, only 2 tackles for loss this year. And you gotta believe right now. I mean, the verdict is still out on this guy right now. Can he be a guy right now who can respond to pressure right now from this team? Uh, get his mind and training in a better spot right now going forward. Because I gotta believe right now the heat is on for him this year. People are going to be watching this guy, see what he can do. I mean, and Joe Schober too, by the way, who they released and terminated his contract. He's going to count 9.7. Who is going to count $9.7 million this year and $11.2 million the following year. His release clears $7.83 million in salary cap space right now. I gotta tell you, Joe Schober, I don't know about anyone else over here, but looking back at this past season, I gotta believe one of the key significant moments came when he was one of the players who spoke up about like how they're not taking practice seriously or they're not practicing as hard. And Joe Schober, I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, he was a nice attraction. I mean, when they signed him in the offseason, don't get me wrong, he's a former Pro Bowler, but at the same time, too, listen, I don't think he's earned his stripes yet, despite being a veteran player. I mean, who is going into his sixth season right now. He is going to be turning 29 this year. I don't know about anyone else. Was he just out of line for what he said? Was it just not his place? I mean, he's played most of his career with the Cleveland Browns right now, and this is what happens. But I mean, speaking of the Cleveland Browns, we're going to get into the AFC North in just a bit here. But I believe Joe Schober for right now, when we look at it, I just don't feel like right now, was it just another case too, where it's just, well, let's shut out some noise here. But again, $7.83 million in cap for right now. And we look at the cap space right now for the Pittsburgh Steelers with all that they have spent so far going into it. They got about $7.2 million in cap space, which is pretty solid so far. They're spending that much money. I mean, like I said, just to recap right now, if you're doing the math, if you look it up on Spotrac, $84.65 million signing right now. I gotta tell you what, I think my favorite signing so far, I mean, it has to be Mason Cole of the former Cardinals and center and guard. I mean, he's gonna be a nice one right there. Miles Jack is be a nice, interesting one right there. See how much he could provide competition to Devin Bush and that inside linebacker crew. And else. And then I would also say number 3, as far as like their other signing that they did. I mean, you might have to go with Mitch Trubisky. Maybe. I really believe right now the Mitch Trubisky signing that happened last Monday, I gotta believe they're looking at what the Baltimore Ravens did with their offense the last few years. Now, I was one of the guys definitely shooting this down. I mean, before they even discussed the idea of having him on this team. But again, when you look about what he did with the Chicago Bears, I think the only thing is, too, you got to look at a guy. I mean, he is very athletic. He could utilize his legs a lot. We know all that. And then also, too, I mean, he was the Bears' only quarterback. I mean, Pro Bowl quarterback since Jim McMahon, too, by the way. I mean, which is very shocking in itself. I mean, when you look at like what they've done as a franchise right there. I mean, Mitch Trubisky right now, for whatever reason, he's got some it factor to him. I mean, Todd Haley's loved him a lot. I mean, he's got a career 64 touchdown to 38 interception ratio, 64% of his passes completed. His rating is not too bad either. He's got an 87 QB rating for the most part. Could still be a little bit better. 29 and 21 as a starter. Of course, 0 for 2 in the playoffs. Definitely, which will need to be fixed up right there and polished up for a big way. But when you add the total right there, he's through for 502 yards, and Warriors completed about approximately 63% of his passes right there. 2 touchdowns, no interceptions in the playoffs. So, which is good. Good stuff right there. I'm just wondering, is it still a possibility that they may have Mason Rudolph start off, that eventually Mason Rudolph transitions? Or when you pay this guy this much money right now, is he going to win the job in training camp? I mean, basically, it's almost like the job is basically about his. It's his job to lose right now with all the incentives they're building in right now. I mean, when you invest this much into a guy, you're definitely want to have this guy drive the wheel at your ship for the Steelers quarterback position, I feel. So let's go ahead get into it too. And one thing too right now, want to look at Honey Badger, Tyrann Mathieu, who was released by the Chiefs last week right now. He's going to be looking for a home right now. Here to be a couple of teams interested, like the Colts, the Raiders right now. The Panthers seem to be backing out and not wanting to sign him right now. There's other predictions right now if you possibly go back to New Orleans. But when you think about it right now, I mean, Honey Badger right now, Tyrann Mathieu, who is a former Super Bowl champion right now, 3-time Pro Bowler, 3-time All-Pro, made his pretty much his career with the Chiefs. Actually, And he's been with the Chiefs since 2019, played there for 3 seasons, most of his career with the Arizona Cardinals. So he's going to be going into his 10th season right now, basically. And he'll be turning 30 this year, by the way. And his birthday will be on May 13th. Now, I tell you what, I mean, Niko Fitzpatrick, I mean, this is the biggest thing right now, too. I mean, it's for right now, he still wants to be paid as one of the top safeties with him and his agent, probably like around close to, or if not below, over the 17 million average per year mark. Remember, I mean, Niko Fitzpatrick, by the way, I mean, he played a strong safety this year. He got moved over, and I don't feel that was his natural position. But I do feel that Niko Fitzpatrick, who, by the way, if you bring in a guy like Tyra Matthew right now, who's still fresh right now, still got something left in the tank. Yeah, he's going into his 30s this year, but still, I think he'd be a guy to be worth the compliment, help being involved on the pass rush, helping out with a little bit of the run right there, being closer to the line of scrimmage right there. I mean, it just wasn't a natural fit for Mika this year. And you look at it, I mean, the numbers show right now. He made his 2 and only Pro Bowls and All Pros as a free safety. The last time he ever started off strong safety was in his rookie year with the Dolphins. I mean, and you look at the numbers right there. I mean, the guy who did all this right now, he's, for the most part, he's had 12 total takeaways, which include 9 interceptions and 3 fumble recoveries, 1 playing the free safety position with the Steelers right now. Having a guy like Tyrann Mathieu, I'm sure, would definitely bring a lot of relief right there. And where Tyrann Mathieu could be one of those game changers on defense right there. I mean, look at it right here. I mean, 75 tackles in his first year with the Chiefs, went down to 62, but then he had 76 the following year. I mean, you got to take this guy right here. I mean, and the guy who could definitely just make some great picks right now, 26 total career interceptions in his career, along with 6 fumble recoveries altogether. So it's still being filled out there. I mean, it'd be real interesting. I think the Raiders, if it's not the Steelers, man, that'd be a nice move right there. I mean, imagine going to a division rival right there. And, I mean, you could, like, add to that. I mean, for the most part. The Raiders, I mean, Tyrann Mathieu, according to one blog here on SB Nation, who's saying with Trevon Moehrig, a young deep safety who be molded into an NFL takeaway as he was in TCU, he has the speed, instinct, and tackle ability to be the free safety for a long time coming. But as far as like having someone to compliment him too, you know what Honey Badger brings to the table. And so I'm hoping the Steelers would be able to bring him in, and we'll see what happens on that. But speaking of which, right now, it was announced too that the Steelers, by the way, they have narrowed down their they have interviewed the following candidates for their general manager position this past week: Jerry Reese, Rick Spielman, and Doug Whaley. Now, Doug Whaley is an interesting one right now, who's been popping back up on the radar. He has been a general manager with the Buffalo Bills for 4 seasons, by the way. And you hear him quite frequently on 93.7 The Fan. Don't forget, he was also once upon a time, too, with the Pittsburgh Steelers, by the way, as a pro personnel core there. He worked there for 10 years before accepting the Bills job, by the way. So he worked there from about, for the most part, 2003 to 2012. And like I said, he's got a losing record, but I mean, he's been like one of the guys who's been very vocal too, as far as like about the guaranteed contracts that the Steelers need to pick up on, where they need to get going in today's times, more particularly with TJ Watt last year. And you got like Andrew Filipponi, who recently had Doug Whaley on here. Basically, I mean, he was saying on 93.7 The Fan, if I'm picking 20th, being the best defensive player there. And that's what he's saying. So he's speaking defense. I would have no problem with that. And we're going to get into some prospects coming up in the next podcast this Wednesday. We'll get into a little bit more, analyze a few more positions. We'll definitely take a look at some I'll say cornerbacks and safeties for the most part. We'll get into that. But to be honest, no, not safeties, but I would say more like run stoppers, like inside linebackers or something, or defensive tackles. But anyway, Doug Whaley, I probably want to pass on. I still want something a little bit more legit experience, to be honest with you. Not sure if I'm ready to go that route. Riddick was one I could probably like a little bit more. I mean, just from the football mind, he's had what he's doing with Washington and Philadelphia right there too, and he's had success where he's with the Commanders and then the Eagles right there. And I think for the most part too, when you look at, I mean, I would definitely love to have Riddick on for this team. I think he would definitely be a great mind reader and a guy they could like definitely feed off of each other for the most part. I mean, he's has a 102-105 win-loss record with one tie, and he's had 7 winning seasons altogether. I mean, in this time, and has made 5 playoff appearances for 3-6 record, but still, I mean, don't forget too. I mean, I'm sure he had to be part of like the process to bring back a guy like Joe Gibbs under Daniel Snyder, and then just going over what he did with Philadelphia. So he had all together in his time with those 2 franchises a 13-year career experience right there. And then now former analyst from Monday Night Football with Joe Buck and Troy Aikman taking over. Gotta believe he's looking for a job. Anyway, speaking of which, let's take a look at, I mean, the biggest news of the week, though, too, was the Cleveland Browns right now, too, signing Deshaun Watson right now, which was expected to be where they sent a first, a third, and potentially a 5th-round pick, signs a 5-year, $230 million deal where it's all guaranteed, including a $45 million sign bonus. And to be honest with you, too, I mean, listen, I mean, at the end of the day, say what you will about all the accusations he's got right there. I mean, imagine if he was a Steeler right now, how much people will be mixed emotions right there. I tell you what, at the end of the day, listen, I mean, you look at a guy like Jimmy Haslam, who's been the owner of this Browns franchise. Think about the list of quarterbacks he's had to go through. Brian Menzel, Brian Hoyer, RG3, Brandon Whedon, Austin Davis, Josh McCown, Deshaun Kaiser, Kevin Hogan, Corey Kessler, Tyrod Taylor, Baker Mayfield, now Deshaun Watson right now. And that is a real interesting dynamic right there. And also, too, his team has only made the playoffs one time, and where they're 1-1 right now. We look at, but I mean, Baker Mayfield, he's planning to skip OTAs and mini camps, training camp, and maybe more. But he's trying to buy the trade market. I mean, after we look at, I mean, the Colts just acquired Matt Ryan, so that's out of the question for right now. I mean, the Colts, I think, have been doing a wonderful job trying to find quick patchwork quarterback replacement the last few years, ever since beyond like Andrew Luck. I mean, you think about, I mean, what they've been able to do right there in that regard too. I mean, when you look at the Colts franchise, I mean, for everything that they've been able to do, I mean, when you look at their quarterbacks right there, I mean, who they had the last few years, had Jacoby Brissett, where he went 7-8. Then they went to Philip Rivers right there, took them to the playoffs, only to lose in the first round in Buffalo to the Bills. And then last year with Carson Wentz right there. Definitely a lot of people were very upset with Carson Wentz, the way him and his team folded on the road against a winnable team against the Jaguars right there. But now, I mean, look at it right now. I mean, they're willing to go like with a guy, I mean, with Matt Ryan for the most part. And Matt Ryan, the guy who can still play, is definitely in a bad situation. I mean, with the Atlanta Falcons right now, he is going to the Colts right there, where he's going to be playing for two more years, where he's going to be carrying a cap hit of $23.75 million this year and $28 million the following year, and where the Colts will be having them on there with roster bonuses, $7.5 million for each of the next 2 seasons, for a total of $15 million for the roster bonus. But still, a guy like Matt Ryan right there, who's going to his late 30s, just goes to show you how desperate the Colts can be. But at the same time, they are on the ball when it comes to like keeping the quarterback in position right now for that time. And to be honest, like I said, Deshaun Watson, I mean, listen, he's had a lot of accusations right now. You have Ben Roethlisberger too. I think it's difference too. I mean, no matter what you say, no matter how you slice it, 2 wrongs don't make it right, of course. But I mean, at the same time too, I think Ben Roethlisberger did have, like I said, two situations where one recanted and then the other one came to a settlement. But still, I will say this about Ben Roethlisberger, and same way you will about his history of being a frustrating teammate to deal with in the locker room, what they did. I will say this. I definitely do feel like right now he has grown up since then. I mean, he's cleaned up his act a hell of a lot right now. He's been married, been raising a family. I mean, I like the Ben Roethlisberger I'm seeing right now than where he was when he started off in his career personally in his life, aside from like how he tried to develop as a teammate and a leader. He knows with mixed baggage at times. But at the same time, too, I think Ben Roethlisberger, for the most part, I really do believe he has learned his lesson and trying to be a better representative for the most part. But like I said, I mean, we got some stuff going into this right now as we look at it coming up. There's some other AFC North transactions. Let's stick with the Browns right now. Aside from that, for the Cleveland Browns, they trade defensive end Chase Winovich, who had a year remaining, 4-year, $3.8 million sign bonus. I mean, for the most part. And then they also acquired Amari Cooper from the Cowboys, while the Cowboys received this year's 5th and 6th round pick. 6th round pick. Browns going to be on the hook this year for $60 million and where Cooper will be paid an average base salary of $20 million for 2024. I mean, so that's a pretty still impressive squad, no matter what you say about the Browns. I mean, listen, you still got Myles Garrett right there. You still got some pieces on this team. I mean, definitely an organization right now who are willing to try everything. But everything, the only problem is everything just finds a way keeps backfiring for them for the most part. And it just never seems to learn right now. I mean, trying to go after bigger people. I mean, trying to get Odell Beckham Jr. a few years ago. And then, of course, I mean, for the most part, as we look at it, but we'll find out about that. I mean, for the Cleveland Browns, I mean, this year, I mean, they're always been an organization that's been a mess. I mean, at this a lot of times. I mean, you got Jacoby Brissett as one of your backups right there, so he's gonna be backing up for the most part Deshaun Watson. I mean, not that bad right there. And then you also got MJ Stewart right now, quarterback, but I mean, a pretty solid move right there when you look at it. But I think a guy like Deshaun Watson too. I mean, depending on what's going to happen with him, the only question is, how much is he going to be suspended for? How much is he going to be available for this season? The NFL has not made any announcement what the punishment's going to be, how many games he's going to be suspended for. So we still got to wait and see about that and where this is going to take him at. I mean, Deshaun Watson right now, I mean, he's been found legally not guilty. That can still change in civil court, by the way. But for right now, I think a guy like Deshaun Watson right now, listen, he's a guy that gets another opportunity right now. The only question is where people will get frustrated over is you got a guy like Colin Kaepernick who posted out a video a long time ago, I mean, about a couple weeks ago, still as intention about coming back to the NFL, who's been out of the NFL, I mean, pretty much for 4 seasons, or 5 seasons, I believe it was, excuse me. But still, you know what, Kaepernick, I'm going to just say this right now, once again. I really have lost a lot of interest in him. And I listen, he has every right to at least try and compete for a job in this league. The only question is, I mean, is he going to be able to will up to set aside his pride and be humble about it and take what he can get? I mean, how much does he still value himself as a starter right now? I mean, he had 72 touchdowns with 30 interceptions, definitely good. And Warrior fruit for 12,271 yards. I mean, and he has missed 5 straight seasons, and he's got a losing record at the end of the day. But still, I think Kaepernick, here's the thing. He's been a great example. I mean, he's won his lawsuits. He's been a good representative in communities, especially Black communities, minority communities. Been definitely a social justice hero at the end of the day. My only biggest concern I have right now is you can't be dictating things the way you want to do them. And like I said, the biggest thing that I always or I always frown at the end of the day is when you look at 3 years ago, for example, when you had a workout that was set up for scouts to be attended right now, and you decided to switch up at the last moment. I cannot be all that intrigued for someone wanting to come back right now. And, we'll see. But for right now, I think Kaepernick right now, I'm at the end of the day, I want to just move on from it. I just feel that he has opportunities. It's just going to be more if you come back, what is your motives really for? Do you really want to play the game of football? I'm not saying he doesn't want to play it, but what are the real motives? Are you really trying to go after the NFL more legally than what you are? Are you trying to get more fi- financial leverage out of this thing? Are you trying to because the thing was too, he had to surrender some rights too. That I think he was hesitant that was offered to him 3 years ago when he was trying to get back into the league and work out for teams. I think which he did not want to surrender any of his rights. I think that was a big time problem. But you know what? Too bad. He should not have been put in this position. I mean, expressing how I felt about how there's been a lot of racism in this country, what it doesn't represent. And the biggest problem is, the league was looking at that you weren't uh, being a football guy. You were talking about some other stuff right there. And that was a big turnoff for them. They wanted someone to embrace football and suit their advertisers. But eventually they did start caring. I mean, about 3 years later, when they started getting in touch with Jay-Z and a lot of artists and stuff, try to do stuff for the black communities and stuff. But at the end of the day, Kaepernick right now, I mean, who's going to be turning 30 this year, I mean, about the same age as, no, he's going to be turning 35, excuse me, 35, number third. At this point, no thank you, not me. I would not want to take a guy who's going to be that old right now in his career. I mean, Doug Flutie was another example where he had a late resurgence in his career. He played Canadian football for a while, for at least 8 seasons. And he came back to the NFL in 1998, and he came back at the age of 36, and he didn't finish his career until 43. His last year as a star was back in 2001 under the San Diego Chargers, where he was under Coach Mari Schottenheimer right there. He still had compiled the record of 38-28 right there. Still a solid career there for his size. We look at everything, 5'10", and was still a pretty darn good winner right there. And the guy who could compete, lead teams, I mean, did some stuff imaginable in my opinion. But Kaepernick, I'm not sure. I just feel like if you bring this guy back, I tend to feel like you're going to bring some emotions are going to start back all over again. Maybe not as bad as before. I just don't think he would be a fit for the Steelers. I mean, I know they were Mitchell Trubisky, but no, not in this situation. So I'm going to move on from that. But anyway, let's look at some of the other stuff going on right now. The Ravens, as for the most part, they re-signed nose tackle Michael Pierce, 3 years, $16.5 million. He was lost 2 years ago to the Vikings, where he signed a 3-year deal for $27 million, but played in 2021 due opting out of the 2020 season due to COVID. He was released last Tuesday on March 15th. Prior to that, he suffered an elbow injury and was placed on injury reserve on November 13th, was activated December 4th. He started 4 games for the Vikings prior to this. They also signed free agent safety Marcus Williams, former second-round, 42nd overall pick out of Utah from the Saints. His deal was for 5 years, $70 million, with $37 million of that being guaranteed. Williams, he has started all 76 games of his career. Defense ranked 29th for total in takeaways with 29, where they forced 9 receptions, which ranked 26. I would imagine signing a guy like Marcus Williams right there to help boost them and gain some safe takeaways right there for the most part. I mean, Marcus Williams right now going into this year, as we look at for the Baltimore Ravens, what he could do, like I said, this guy is definitely a pick artist himself. He's got 15 total interceptions for his career. So I could definitely see that working for them. Also, too, the Ravens, they acquired right tackle Morgan Moses, 3-year, $15 million deal with 4.3 signing bonus, while $5.5 million is guaranteed, $1.12 million base salary, 4.38 signing bonus. Moses only missed 8 games out of his 121 starts. And then also, let's look at, too, the Cincinnati Bengals right now, AFC champions right now going into this year, coming up short in the Super Bowl versus the LA Rams, which we're going to get to in a second as well. But for the most part, what they've been able to do in free agency right now, I mean, you look at a guy like Joe Burrow has been sacked a lot. So what was one of the biggest things they did right now is they got they've been able to get some good protection for him. They got Alex Kappa right now, Alex Kappa, who signed a 4-year, $35 million deal with the Bengals, including a $9 million sales bonus, and where $11 million is guaranteed. Kappa, he comes from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers right there. And then also for the Bengals, too, as far as the offensive line, they also got center Ted Karras right now, formerly of New England. He is signed for a 3-year, $18 million deal. And then they also got tight end Hayden Hurst this year. And that's about it. So Bengals definitely on the move right now. But then also let's look at the defending champions, LA Rams right now, playing Super Bowl champs. They released punter Diane Heckler, which cleared $2.05 million in cap space. Rams day before free agency agreed to terms on 3-year, $46.5 million deal, which included $30.7 million guaranteed for an average annual salary of $15.5 million. They also signed former Bears Allen Robinson to a 3-year, $46.5 million deal, which includes $3.7 million guaranteed with an average salary of $15.5 million. Well, there's still a possibility too. They're working on a contract extension too for Aaron Donald, Stan Kroenke, and them. We look at for right now. But as far as like free agency goes for the LA Rams, aside from that, going into it right now, Von Miller, he is left to go on to the Buffalo Bills right now, where he signed a mega deal right now, a 6-year deal right now for $120 million with $18.525 million sign bonus, 51.435 guaranteed, and the average was $20 million in 2022. He'll be joining Bills Mafia. That was definitely a surprise right there. See him go from the Rams on there and look at. But then there was also some news, I believe, about Matthew Stafford right now, who they're working on a time. But right now, Matthew Stafford reached a 4-year, $160 million extension after the Super Bowl win, basically, as they extended him officially on March 19th. Quarterback's new deal is worth $160 million, $135 million, which is guaranteed. 4-year extension that will finish his career in Los Angeles. So if you think about it, that'll be for the 2025 season. Threw for 4,886 yards with 41 touchdowns, which matched his career high. And definitely money in the playoffs, no doubt. All right, so let's go into it right now. Once again, John Clayton. Just wanted to say prayers and thoughts are with to him and the Clayton family. And his ESPN colleagues, more particularly Sean Salisbury right there, got a chance to meet him. Definitely a sad loss in the football world as we lost him this past Friday. But then also, too, right now, as we look at exciting news for ESPN's Monday Night Football. Now, Troy Aikman, who went over right now, who jumped ship, from Fox to now ESPN, able to reel in Joe Buck. And this was tied the record for the longest pairing for NFL broadcasting duels, be tied with as they'll be entering their 21st season, which will tie Pat Summerall and John Madden. They broadcasted together from 1981 to 2001. Following Joe Buck and Troy Aikman, the ones I looked on research, you also got the original Sunday Night Football crew, on ESPN. I want to say original. Mike Patrick and Joe Theismann, they broadcast together from 1988 to 2005. Then you also got others on the list too, like Jack Buck, Hank Stram on CBS Radio primarily, 1978 through 1995, right there with a 2-year gap in between there. Al Michaels and Chris Collinsworth just ended, it seems like for right now, a 13-year run from 2009. Same with Jim Nantz and Phil Simms, 2004 to 2016. Also, one of my favorite, my two other favorite pairs of Monday Night Football is Al Michaels and John Man back in 2002. I gotta tell you, man, this right here, Monday Night Football was packed. Steve Levy and Brian Greasy were not pulling the weight the last 2 seasons. This needed to change badly. And I think having a guy like Joe Buck and Troy Aikman on this right now, I love this a lot. And to be quite frankly honest, you, they need a voice like this. And you see guys like Joe Buck and Troy Aikman, they especially got their warm-ups on Fox's Thursday Night Football. I think it's a great signing. But anyway, that's doing it right now. Joe Buck, he was definitely who got released out of his contract 1 year earlier, which was granted position by Fox. Joe Buck on the move, he said, after 27 years at Fox, my goodbye on air on the network is me singing dressed as a ram. Buck said his Masked Singer performance that aired this week. Well, Buck is receiving a large pay increase in his new deal. The play-by-play voice says the lifestyle change that joined ESPN represents should not be understated, considering his wife works for the network on Monday Night Countdown. Having that kind of one centralized night to work in the Buck house and then come back and be with their twin sons was such a quality of life move for me that I couldn't really take it, said the 52-year-old broadcaster joining ESPN. But that's going to do it for this edition here of the Matt Steele Podcast. I want a little bit extra on this one, definitely for sure. Plan to be back this Wednesday. We'll definitely look at some more prospects on the defensive side. Again, if you guys want to hit me up on Twitter, please do so at Matt Steele CGR and on Instagram at Matt Steele Faces. I leave you. Don't be trolling. Be rolling. Here we go. I go.